World Percussion Group. This is session 2 of, I think, around about 25. We've got a lot of percussive action over the next few months. Some great performances today. Just one shout out. Sadly, Albin Rosenquist can't be here today. He's not very well. So best wishes to him, and I hope you feel better soon. Our second coach of this tour is none other than Anders Elten. Me and Anders go a fair few years back. He was actually one of the first soloist of the WPG program back in 2016, I believe. So, Anders, welcome to the WPG as a coach. I don't know if you could maybe just tell the audience listening a little bit about yourself and what you do in your day-to-day life.
Yes. Well, hello. My name is Anders, as you mentioned. Yeah. Well, my daily life's career, what you might call it, with music is, I think, a relatively common way of living. I teach at a couple of different academies here in Scandinavia, and then I do some private lessons. I do solo concerts. I have a duo. We just released an album. We do concerts, do school concerts also. I'm gonna do some concerts with, Theodore Milkov and Ariane Jongsma. Hopefully next season we are going to do some pretty exciting new trio projects.
Amazing.
Marimba trio. Yeah, with music by Christos Hatsis. So this will be quite interesting. So yeah, I mean, like most people, I think a little bit here and there, and yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I'm mostly specialized in the marimba.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much. So we'll go across to our first artist then, which is Elias Gustafsson. Hi. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm good. Thanks.
Good. I didn't know if perhaps you could tell the people listening and also Anders a little bit about yourself and what you're going to showcase today.
Yeah, so I'm Elias Gustafsson. I'm from Sweden. I'm currently living and studying in Estonia, in Tallinn. And today I'm presenting it's a version of Velocities. I'm nowhere done with this piece, but it's in progress, and I'm looking forward to hear what Anders has to say about how I can improve it.
Brilliant. All right, so I'll just cue this video up. Just give me a second. All right, Anders, how much do you want to listen to this?
It's up to you. I mean, I listened before, right? So
yeah, you listen.
If people are didn't, probably nobody else had a chance to listen. So I don't know. It's up to you. It's fairly long, right? 7-8 minutes Velocities. So it depends. I mean, maybe
Okay.
halfway, or it's really up to you.
Elias, what do you think? Halfway enough?
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay, let's do that then. If you two could just mute your mics, that would be great.
Yep.
All right, Anders, over to you.
You're muted, I
Mute
think so.
myself. All right. So
Yep.
yes. It's that awkward live streaming delay. So anyways, yeah, cool. Great work. I mean, obviously, super difficult piece, especially. I mean, since obviously you know how to play the instrument very well. I mean, you have a good sound, and you know you don't. I mean, miss so many notes as could happen. I mean, it's clear that you know how to play the instrument. The thing with this piece is that you don't get any rest, right? That's the hard part. So sort of practicing it in a way that you can go through from A to C without major issues is sort of a little bit the trick with that piece, right? So maybe we could talk a little bit about some practicing ideas. So obviously, as you say, it's a work in progress. So maybe I'll just give you my ideas to how maybe you know it already, probably, but just some ideas how to practice it. And of course, we get into the music a little bit also.
Sounds great.
So my thoughts with velocities, especially, let's say there's really like three main difficult parts, at least for me, and it seems like for most people. And one of them you already have quite well down is the one where it starts to go introduce 30-second notes in the mix, right? Here you actually played quite clean, and it's like you really practice that part. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you spend maybe more time on that, it sounds very clean compared to some other parts, which are actually much easier. And then, of course, the beginning is a little bit tricky, and unfortunately, in concerts, you never get a second try, right?
Yeah.
You don't just stop after the third bar and be like, come
Just
on,
one more. Just one more take.
But in theory, you can do it on the videos, right? So that's something I personally would do, is just sort of, you know, just nailing like the opening and then keep going, you know. I would probably always just be like, okay, do the next take if I mess up the opening. But so how to get the opening more easily, the right notes, obviously, as I can see in the video, you're moving a little bit like kind of sideways after the opening chord, and if you can, it is pretty possible to find one position where you just play dudum and just move the arms, because if you move the head, it's I mean, talking from experience, is what produces wrong notes. As long as you can keep your head still, your aim is more true. Goes for you know, ski shooting or shooting a bow and arrow. It definitely works for hitting the right marimba bars. So if simply dialing in a body position where you don't really have to change, maybe you need to crouch a little bit, but like sideways motion, you don't have to in the opening at least. So that's pretty key. And then of course, I mean, it's tricky, but yeah, I mean, you know, just practicing slowly. The good old strategy of using the metronome, I'm sure you do that, but sometimes I know from myself, I forget this advice and think like, I just practice slow and it should be fine. But it's much better to put the metronome instead of trying to practice slow, because what you end up doing is sort of less efficient practice, at least for me. So I really feel whenever I put on the metronome and go really slow, and I mean less than half tempo to start with, right? So with velocities, I would probably start this opening lick like, let's say tempo 40 or 42 or something, and just get it right. You know, these 3 bars or how many times it comes, just get it right a couple of times, and then up the clicks, you know, just goes the very Slavic way, just little by little. But I think that's the best way to do it. Stand still, practice slowly with the metronome, and increase the speed, and do that every day. Then it will be there for sure. But it's very nice. You look like you have a very relaxed grip. So that's super good, because that can be hard to change. So this looks super relaxed, and also Burton, I think personally, is a very good grip for this piece because you have easy power and you don't really have too many difficult interval changes. Yeah. All right. So just a few tips for so one of the difficult things in this piece. Let's see if I can change my camera. Let me just hold on so you can see me from the marimba, maybe. This works, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so just tip, there's a lot of these fourths going around in this piece. And I see you use kind of like this, the Stevens sticking. And the thing with that is that it's quite hard to get power in the second one. At least it used to be for me. So it quickly becomes a very heavy accent and not so much on the second one. Yeah, at least when I listened to your video, that seemed to be the case. Let me see. So for instance, when you come in the top there, something, this. It's been like 8 years since I played that, so I don't really remember it.
I get the idea. I get the idea for sure.
Yeah, you get the idea. So it can be very hard to get the second one. So what I found out, maybe I'm really retarded, but recently I found out the easiest way to get the second one loud, and actually you can easily get it louder than the other one, even without lifting the mallet high to strike, is if you think of the first one, I'm just gonna change the camera real quick. It changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to really think now of two kind of strokes. One is, like the normal stroke. You have it attached here and it goes like this. The normal boom boom stroke. And then of course we have the upstroke, which you lift here, right? So what I think is a little bit that you have sort of an axis in the middle and then it balances like this. So if you want to add energy here, you can obviously lift with this part. So it's like spinning the mallet like this. So you can use this in these lateral parts. It gets a little technical, yeah, but I think it's helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you see this clear? So I mean, if the first is like the normal downstroke, and then you can rotate this way, then all of this, you sort of rotate around the middle, so instead of...
Would you say it's kind of like doing a Miller stroke with rotation, like a upstroke, I mean?
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, right? I guess the Muller technique, it works in the same way, right? But what sort of was... I don't know, a different way of thinking for me was simply that if you see it in slow motion, because I recorded myself in slow motion, you see that it starts to balance around, it pivots around the middle of the stick. So it's not like a full stroke, which is attached, to the point here and moves, but it's rotating around. So that means, of course, your wrist goes down, but you can apply actually force to the mallet by, it's like spinning it like this, right? So if you don't spin with the arm, then the second stroke will be weak. So what I recommend to practice, what is really fun to practice, is an exercise like this. I'll just show you really quickly.
Yep.
So essentially arpeggios, right? So like this. So you can, and the other way. And any kind of sticking, really, you're going also with the left hand, maybe,
Yep.
So this I would really recommend trying to develop, because that will help you tremendously. Then you can choose however much you want to balance those. You can make them exactly the same volume, or you can make it accented, but still with some force in the second one. Yeah.
Yep.
And I would just do those arpeggios, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, right? So you always take the fourth with 3, 4. That's a great way to develop that. And incidentally, you pretty much mostly need the fourth in this piece, you know. So and it goes the same when you go to the later parts of the piece where you have like these, for instance, these fifths going on. Then if you lift the second one, you can get more power in it, so you can much more easily make a crescendo. Because if every second stroke is weaker than the first one, it's not a true crescendo, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the first one you drop, you can even use the arm for it, right? Boom. But then there's nothing here unless you spin from the back of the hand. Then you can actually add just as much energy into the second stroke as the first one. And then you can truly make crescendo and of course diminuendo, where you wouldn't be lifting so much. So you can make like really graduated dynamics much more easily. And just, so I mean, I think that's super key for this piece. It just makes it much easier to play it. And if I just may show you one final thing about this concept, which works really well. It's very technical, yeah.
That's good.
I just think for doing, you know, further practice on this, it can be helpful. So, yeah. So, so basically, this motion here, it also helps you to put the mallets in the right places. So if you have a look at this, first I'll play C major without this technique, and then I'll play it with. So you'll see how I'll use this scoop to get to the next notes. So first is, let's say, the normal way. I'll do this really slowly. So you're here, you play this, and then you move, and then you move. You know, you always move like this, but the other way, if you can actually you basically use the motion to go to the next note.
You kind of use the arm movement, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you use the rotation to go to the next note instead of using rotation like this and staying on this, and then everything is like that. It just becomes much more fluent. It looks like that, right?
I see.
Like sort of overextending your wrist, but then you fly from note to note. And this is really nice in a piece like Velocities, where you need to hit the right notes. So what I feel is that what happens is, instead of a normal sort of let's say rotation stroke, you have this kind of weird angles on each stroke, which can be really hard to put them in the right places, right? Because they kind of come from an angle like that. But what happens with this technique is that the first one comes just directly down, and then you lift pretty much down. So it's like both strokes go directly vertically down. So it's much easier to hit the right notes that way, instead of having this kind of, you know, this kind of movement, because it's rotation based, right? If I just turn them, obviously they're gonna be like a little bit, you know, like a circular trajectory, right?
Yeah.
But here you can just put it down basically kind of with the arm, and then lift with the arm, and then both strokes, they are really accurately hitting the right spots. So this was something I only started using that kind of recently, but it really helped me, especially to make crescendos and to go fluently through the notes. I'm sure other people do that plenty, but for me it was, I never actually did that. So maybe you also don't. So that's why I just wanted to share that with you. All right, cool. So in the opening there, yeah, I mean, I think just in general for this, you know, what would be nice is, I mean, this sort of like a cliche thing, but I mean, really getting kind of characters in there, right? So obviously in this piece, it's very clear you have like these, was it sharp 9 chords or something? That are really aggressive, right? Super aggressive and a rough sound kind of. And then it's interspersed with all these fourths and fifths and these kind of nicer sounding places. So getting it really to be kind of, aggressive, right? And it's actually quite tricky, but I would say getting some of the accents more clear, especially in the kind of runs, and then no accents, and then accents again, but very strong accents. But of course, not playing every note. So the lift helps to get the second one still audible. So a little bit stronger accents on those, a little bit clearer somehow would be nice. But otherwise, I think the opening is actually also in your video seems some of the stuff that you worked more on, and actually the ending is the best part of your video. The ending sounds great. So I'm sad we didn't actually show that. This sounds super cool. Yeah, because you really speed up the end, and you just go for it, and it sounds amazing. The ending is super good. From like after the speed up, right? Before the speed up, you still need to work on it, as people do. All right, let's see.
Got like
so
just
when you arrive at this
couple of minutes, Anders, and then we've got to wrap up.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So maybe I'll just simply, since anyways it's like a work in progress, I'll share with you another sort of little technical thing that might help some of the places where you seem to be struggling a little bit more than the other places. So I'll just put the other camera here quickly, and I'll just show you. So again, it's been quite a few years since I played this. So, but this place, every time this lick comes, yeah, it seems to be that. So the idea there is that you have this 3 phrase, and then you have something that kind of disturbs it, like. So it's like 3 and 3, and then 2 2 2, right? So to get actually kind of a pulse on the well, it would be the third one here. So not this. So what I try to do is sort of carry through with the rotation that you're using here. Just kind of give it another good squeeze in that direction. And then you can also use this kind of lifting principle. Because then it's not really too much limiting. There will be a limit, but it will be much higher than if you're trying to play everything like it's a very kind of taxing. But if you do again, imagine that. Now I make a huge accent just to demonstrate it. But this is the way I would approach a passage like that. It's to simply carry through the motion and then use this kind of lift stroke, the upstroke. But with this in mind that it's still spinning, so that you get more power in the second stroke. Well, that is the second part of the double, right? If it makes sense. Yeah, because a lot of people seem to be struggling there, and actually it's kind of the easiest place because you're not moving that much. Finally, it's so I would develop that. So then this becomes the easiest place of the piece and a moment of a respite, actually, rather than like, oh no, I have so many notes in the right hand. But it's easy because it's just like this, and you lift and then you push back down, and then you have the whole thing. So yeah, that would be my tip for that. And then really the metronome practice, go definitely bit by bit with the metronome. I mean, seriously, tempo 40 and just nail it. The last thing I will just say, imagine the bar. Does it work? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. We're just
See if I can.
moving a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the connection is getting funky a little bit. Okay. Anyway, so if you imagine this is the bar. So imagine it's split in half, running through the, like if you were to destroy the bar properly with the wrong mallet in the base, like really split through in the middle, okay? And then that's the line you want to hit. I mean, you don't have to hit it in the middle or on the rope, but you know, any kind of sound you want, but through the middle of that line when you're practicing slowly, because that means you're practicing more, you know, with higher precision, and your chances of actually hitting somewhere in there, even if you miss like by a centimeter, it will still be the right note. So that's a pretty nice tool for sort of cleaning up, even though it's always difficult for marimba players to clean up the notes with the difficult pieces. This is one way that I found to works really well, is to go for the middle of the center line, because you'll just be more precise. Yeah. All right. So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah. Well done. Well done,
Great,
Elias. Thank you.
Great.
I'm sure you could go on a lot longer, but unfortunately we have to move on. So we're going to move on to some Bach now. I know you love a little bit of Bach, Anders. So we're going to bring on Elin. Now we had a few connection issues last week, so let's see. Hello.
Hi, Anders.
Hey,
Wow, long time
hi.
no see.
Long time no see. Yeah,
I'm
great to
actually
see
now
you.
I'm live. How are you? It's been a long while, right? Since we met last time
Oh
in
my
Belgium,
goodness.
right? It was in Belgium, I think.
Yeah,
Back then,
that's
in
ages.
2015, in the competition, right? It was the
Eons
last time.
ago. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And how are you? Everything going great in Denmark, right? Which city?
Yes, in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Yeah. Yes.
Copenhagen, nice. I'm
Yes.
living in Germany now.
Yes.
I start teaching some
And,
music school. I found some job here and as a
yeah.
freelancer musician at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, I followed you
Yeah.
also did on Facebook. Congratulations.
Oh, really?
With your job.
Wow.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's my pleasure. Yeah, and thank you for replying me sometime in a message. I know you are
No,
very
of
busy
course.
at the moment. Yeah, I also asked you for some opinion or some like how to say suggestion advice for back then when I applied in the WPG. So thank you very much for helping me.
All right.
Supporting. Okay, so let's start.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Bach, some prelude from C sharp major from Well Tempered Clavier, Book 1.
All right. Make sure you put your mutes on again, please.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a
Yes.
very difficult piece
Yeah.
actually for the controlling. I would like to have
Oh,
also some
no,
caution
no.
how the voicing, and when I'm moving during the bar, sometimes I feel a bit difficult to singing while playing so many notes. Actually, that's why. Because I
Oh, yeah. I
remember back
mean,
then you play also very
how
musical
you
piece. Yeah, so it would be.
Yes, of course. No, I mean, I actually think that you do the singing part, like your playing is very singing, I would say. The sound is very good, I would say, and very nice to listen to. So, I mean, I actually did a fair bit of Baroque music these past few years. I did I think within these 2 years, I did the Bach, the E minor piano partita,
Oh wow,
keyboard partita,
nice.
the full one. I did the E minor lute suite like everybody else. I did
Wow.
the E major lute suite, and now I'm doing the C minor
Okay, I see.
keyboard partita. So I actually did quite a bit of this music, and I
Right.
think, I mean, there's no right or wrong. First of all, I think so. The question is, of course, what you want to do. I mean, I think personally that the Bach on marimba is almost the best instrument you could play it on,
Right.
because when you think about it, actually, we have such a variety of attacks, you know,
Right.
from hard mallets, soft mallets, different strength of wrapping, different cores, different length of mallet even. I mean, and you know, and you can
Right.
change the angle of attack where you hit on the bar. You know, the pianist can pretty much make one kind of attack and then decide when to lift, you know? And then of course you have maybe some pedals and stuff, but still,
Right.
of course, we cannot really change the length of the note, unfortunately, which would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, right. But maybe changing the
But
articulation, I would say, maybe
yeah,
something
I
like
mean the
that.
attack, right?
Attack, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
usually, I guess, I mean, articulation can of course be many things, right? I think a lot of, especially in this kind of repertoire, articulation would probably mean like length of note. Also
Right.
because the harpsichord cannot really do much other than the length of the note.
Right.
So that seems to be how most musicians playing other instruments approach this music. You know, changing essentially the length of the notes to show which notes are emphasized. They will be longer, and not so emphasized notes they will be often shorter.
Right.
So,
Background, something like, yeah.
but
I see. Yeah.
so the marimba is like the opposite of the harpsichord, right?
Right.
So the marimba has really no control over the length of the note. I mean, you can shorten it, but we have like huge dynamics, right? And the harpsichord has no dynamics,
Right.
but an okay control over length of note. It's also not very long, right?
Right.
The harpsichord decay. So it's like the opposite. So it's an interesting experiment to take this repertoire and put it to an instrument which is inherently the opposite of the harpsichord. Also, the harpsichord has like super sharp sound, right?
Yeah.
And the marimba has this
Actually,
very
yes.
warm and mellow attack.
Exactly.
At least with yarn mallets, right? I mean, you could take like rubber mallets or something. But,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think most people would really
Would
enjoy
choose
it.
that. Yeah. Right. It
No,
sounds
no.
a bit weird, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. So anyways,
Yeah.
I can only share with you sort of my approach to this kind of music. And,
I would also like to ask how do you interpret the Bach's music, or in general Baroque music? I see. What's your opinion about? Because everyone have different opinion when talks about Bach.
exactly.
That's why, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would, because I really enjoy your music. You also sing a lot and doing the voicing, something like,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
musical. I really enjoy when listening to your music. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I really think that you're onto is like the voicing. So
Right.
since we cannot change the length of the notes, it is sort of, and why I think marimba players play so much difficult music with so many notes is
Right.
that you cannot really change the articulation. I mean, you can change the attack sound quite dramatically, but you cannot change the articulation, like the length of the notes. So
Exactly.
then you need a lot of notes to have these small voices or something so that it appears more three-dimensional. A pianist can hold a chord and make, or even a
Right.
harpsichordist, and make short notes, and you can have this three-dimensionality in the voice leading, and we cannot. So the dynamics, of course, are important, and how to get each voice to sound like its own thing, which is really difficult, especially since the low end of the instrument actually speaks less than the high end, like, and it's harder to hear the pitch of the low end than like on a harpsichord. It's really easy to hear the pitch of the low end, of course on a piano as well. And then the marimba, the lower you go, the more diffuse the pitch becomes. So there's many obstacles to voice leading on the marimba.
Right.
At the same time, it's what I think is the true art of marimba playing is exactly the voice leading and the calibration of the voices.
I see.
Because that's what we can do, right?
So usually when you get a score, the first place you start analyzing the music, or you start just playing, or you read the music first in your head, like what's the process?
I mean, this really depends, I would say. I mean, if it's, let's say it's a Baroque piece of music, I very much likely know it already. So
I see.
And yes, you could definitely analyze it. Honestly, I mean, the chords are simple, right? In Bach, it's like the most, pretty much the most advanced you usually encounter is like a Neapolitan subdominant, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
Typical
Typical going way. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and otherwise it's like the super basic harmonies, right? And done in a very masterful way. But it's not like you need to like write A minor. It's so
something.
obvious. Play it once, you already know it, right?
But I mean, for like a polyphony music, sometimes have so many different lines going at the same time. It's a bit confusing for me when to sing which one is which one. It's sometimes I feel
that's your choice. That's your choice.
Okay, really? So that's why I start to listen in many different versions of piano playing, or I start to listen in the recording, and I can take as a reference. So, for example,
of course.
So you also do the same way, or like interpret your own way.
Yes. I mean, I like to listen to recordings also. And what you find is that most pianists and violinists also, who are not specialists in the Baroque style, they play in like one school, and the sort of the historically informed performers, they play as a different school, and it's totally different. There's no similarities. Also in the violin playing, if you listen to Theo is saying hi. If you listen to some romantic violinists, I mean, they play Bach in a super romantic way. Then you hear a Baroque violinist, and they look at completely different things. So what I actually try to do usually is start with sort of like the Baroque approach as much as possible, and then whenever it becomes like a constraint around you, then I throw off the shackles, and then I do what needs to be done to make it sound as good as I think it sounds on the marimba. But my starting point is definitely not just personal. It is to get into the spirit, so to speak, right? And,
exactly.
I had quite a few sessions now with Baroque musicians, and it's quite, I don't know if you had that. Did you try that?
Yeah, sometimes I do some collaboration with also different instrument and play some Baroque. Yeah, back then, I mean, when I study in Detmold, and for my master, we have some Baroque lesson, especially focused on marimba, but we do some transcription, for example, originally written for like harpsichord, other instrument, and we just try to play like, Telemann. We play some like on the marimba.
Okay.
So just to get some idea.
Yes.
And we have some Baroque teacher. I mean, he is not specializing on the marimba, but he is a Baroque expert, I would say. So he can give some idea to the students. And back then, I got some idea from the lesson. So how should Baroque music be interpreted? And further brings on the marimba and try to find the best sound to fit more. I mean, because each instrument sounds already different. Absolutely. So he also learned from the marimba player, so we learn from each other.
That's a really
different area.
That's a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Have
mean,
you played Shakong? I mean, because I also heard so many people play the different way in Shakong.
I actually never
Yeah.
played. I mean, I didn't do too much of the violin repertoire. Actually, I don't think
I see.
I don't think I ever.
More harpsichord or
Yeah, I did the lute stuff and then a lot of
lute,
the
yes,
harpsichord things, like a lot of well-tempered clavier, and then a couple
Right,
now
right.
of the keyboard partitas. Because I think,
I see.
I mean, in my opinion, like the thing with like cello suites or violin partitas is that it's written only in that way because Bach wrote for the
Right.
violin, you know.
Yeah, right,
And
exactly.
it's
I also feel that way.
so sometimes there's a voice appearing just to give like kind of this texture, and then it disappears
Yes,
again.
yeah.
But if it had been written for harpsichord, this voice would be rounded off and entered in the right place. So it's like I feel like the harpsichord
Oh,
music
interesting.
is like the complete thing, the complete picture. And the violin and cello things, they're missing something. And
Right.
it's an art form itself, like this kind of as a composer, I guess, limiting yourself to this medium and getting like with hidden polyphony and these things like
I see. So you would recommend me also try more harpsichord repertoire?
yes, I
So,
actually would recommend yes.
compare with strings.
Yes,
compare
I
with-
would say. I
see,
mean,
I see. Okay.
so, and
It's
I
really
would,
good idea.
I would probably recommend you to take also to look
Yeah.
at Rameau.
Yeah. Can you
because
write in the comment how to?
yes, sure.
Okay. Yes. It's it's a composer.
Yes,
or
it's a French
musician?
composer. So the thing is, with the
okay.
preludes and fugues, I
Yeah.
think it can be quite tricky to get into, especially those, because some of them will be written like dance types almost,
Right.
but it's not written.
I see.
You
I
just
see.
have to know. And then some of it is more like sacred music, some of it is
Right.
more like, but there's no way to know really unless you really know the music. The thing with the like Rameau, for instance, is that a lot of this music from some of his operas, and so it's obvious what the music is about. Or
Opera, I
sometimes
see.
it's just dance
I see.
types, just some dance types, you know.
Oh.
You know, and the same thing with the Bach partitas is that they're this dance type, so you know exactly.
Right. Or
you
a
know, then you- then
minuet
you-
or like something like that. Yeah.
yeah, of course, and then sort of you can get into the interpretation much easier because you have here it's like, what is I mean, what is this? It's a prelude, right? But
Right,
how
it's a prelude,
how would they really play it? We can't really know. So it's
Right,
it becomes a little bit more obscure how it should sound in like a Baroque way, I would say.
Understand. So it's still many options we are searching for.
Yeah,
Like
yes.
trying to do experimental things. Like,
Yeah, now we
understand.
unfortunately talked a lot. I would have some specific comments, but maybe
sure.
another time. Yeah.
We can talk more in the mess. Yeah, right. We
Because I
message
actually
each other. Yes.
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
Pipina, thank you so much for today.
Yeah.
I really learned a lot.
All right, Tim.
So hope to see you next time in person. Hope to see you
well.
in person next time. Yes.
Yes, that would be great. That would be great. All right, Tim is
Thank
putting
you.
the pressure.
All right. I feel that too.
Yeah, thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you. So we keep in touch and
Look
see
at
you
that
next time.
pressure guy.
Bye bye.
Yes, see you. I think you're muted, Tim.
It's 1-1 now. Okay.
There you go.
Great. So we're going to have Remy on now. We're going to go to the States for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or are we? Yes, we are. There we are. Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Remy. How you doing? Do you want
Hello.
to tell Anders a little bit about what you're going to be showcasing today?
Sure. So this is a recording from a performance a year ago on my master's of the piece Soprano Bitta by Brett William Dietz. I originally wanted to perform it because I only heard one other recording of it, and I thought it was interesting. I just thought it could use a little more love. And yeah, it's really all I have. Just
Great.
It's pretty simple.
And how much do you want me to play of this?
Like halfway. I think we'd be fine.
Cool. Anders, you got any questions, or should we roll?
No, I have the here also. Follow along
Okay.
again.
All right. Don't forget to mute. All right. Over to you. Don't forget to unmute.
Yes. First of all, very nice to meet you, Remy, and
Nice to meet you as well.
congratulations on a great performance. I'm sure
thank
the rest of the Masters recital also went great. Yeah, I mean this is seems very text accurate. I mean I didn't play this piece myself. I actually didn't know the piece, but it's a quite cool piece. I like it.
Yeah.
So it's a good catch also, and nice that you show some lesser played pieces, some love. That's great. I don't know. I mean, I can only, as I didn't play this piece myself, I can only sort of maybe deduct some things from the score that may not be helpful, or may not be just my own personal preferences. But I guess that's all we can do. And then, of course, there's some places just, but you're probably aware, like where I don't know, maybe you skipped a rest or something, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess right off the
So,
bat, I
I mean,
have a,
are you playing then in the future or? Sorry?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I have no concerts lined up where I'd be able to program it, but I try to keep it around because it's less known, and I think it's an interesting piece to keep in my hands.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So from if you come the beginning there, I think I to send the score. I actually tried to play it a bit myself. It's actually tricky to get the beginning to sound like this theme, like the first theme, right? Let's call it a theme or motive. It's actually tricky to get it to sound the way that it's indicated, right? Because
Yep.
to me it seems like he wants actually just kind of the chord pedaled, and then it's pretty much doesn't want the top notes pedaled, right?
Yep.
So and this feels a little bit, in a way, when you play it, this feels a little bit counterintuitive because you want to give like the accented note a lot of maybe. But sometimes I just think you could lift the pedal a little bit sooner maybe, so that like the chord is kind of one thing, and then you have this like kind of bouncing ball, big, 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 so that, yeah, sometimes you keep like the pedal on to like the third of them or something like that. I think it's nice if it would be a little bit more dry. I think that could help. And then also in the beginning, especially, so if you observe later in the piece, you have it comes like notes with this, like in bar number 152 or something, right? Or even before that one, around 147, 6 or something, 146. You see, you have it kind of half tempo, right?
Yep.
And there you do an excellent diminuendo, It's just excellent. Ding, 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 And I'm thinking you should do exactly the same on the eighth notes. Ding, 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 ding. Like this, instead of ding. You die so quickly after the accented note that the other notes are almost the same, kind of. So I would maybe try to practice really slowly and get an accent on the first one, but maybe not too strong, and then bounce it, gradually down all the time. I think that could be quite nice. Then it will be a little bit more interesting in the beginning. Yeah, so just small thing, bar 30. I think it's too short. You're an 8-note rest I wrote. Sometimes when you have the double 8-note rests, like one from the previous bar and one in the new bar, then you don't make, like, it should be a quarter note rest, right? And
Yep.
to me, most of the times it just becomes an 8-note. So maybe that's something to keep an eye out for. Yeah. And then, so we have the next motive is like tempo 2, right? So it must be really tricky to play this piece. I mean, and I can only commend you for this performance. Seems like it's really close to the text and very like stably performed, like very stable. You don't glitch out or do anything. It's very nice. But this second motive, I think it would be nice if you could exaggerate these dynamics, So the very strongest should be the sforzando, right? In the beginning of the bar and on every pulse. So where you put the pedal down, basically, right? This should be the loudest of them. Probably, it's hard to know, but I would think even louder than the fortissimo. It should probably be a dynamic above that, I would suppose, but it's sometimes the composers use this a little bit differently. I don't think it's forzando in piano dynamics, at least. It seems to me like that's the loudest one. So maybe really loud, and then let the other stuff really come from underneath that. So we maybe even can't hear the first few notes. And then you just build it, and the cliche trick always works to save the crescendo for the end of that phrase, right? So one little tip I sometimes use, if I have something kind of fast and tricky to get dynamics on, I would imagine there's a fermata after each little line. So in the beginning, you just hold it really long, it's crescendo to fortissimo. So you just, like super loud and stop, and then play the next passage, This works also, I would have said that to Elias also, but we didn't have time. For instance, in velocities, you have these places with the fifths going up and down all the time. And there, if you stop on the top of your dynamic curve and just hold it there and then think, okay, decrescendo and then down. And then gradually you can take this and make it shorter. Yeah, that somehow it seems to be a good way of sort of tightening up the dynamics. Like then you can shift really quickly and you can do it very accurately. So just put a fermata on the end of every crescendo and decrescendo, and then you just aim for that, and you have a breath to recalibrate the other direction, So this I would recommend on this kind of motive, for that kind of practicing, if it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just to make it a little bit, just sharpen it up. It sometimes, especially later on, the more times you play this little motive, the more sloppy the dynamics become.
Yep.
Beginning is actually quite okay, but then as the piece progresses, it's of course not always that it has this crescendo, but like the second time you play it, it's already hardly piano anymore. All right, and then so bar 37 is also missing a rest. Sounded like to me. At least I wrote that. Maybe it's not true, but in general, maybe instead of pointing out me's a rest, maybe I would just recommend going through this piece again when you are in it, but just with the score, just through and sort of sing it in your head, mental practice it, and then you will quickly find those small errors. You'll be like, oh, you will be singing something, but there's an 8-note rest, so then that's the easiest way to sort of also to remove, like if there's wrong notes or something you studied, then for everybody that just seems to be the best way. Just sit with the score alone. The instrument, when you're at the instrument, you just repeat previous motion patterns and previous practice until it's just really a habit. The best way is just to take the score away from the instrument and rid it of these small things. I'm not sure if maybe it was just in this performance, but okay. Let's see here. 64. Right. So then we come to the sort of tempo 3, right? This fast one. So here again, I don't know, just for an audience hearing this for the first time, I think it can be nice to sort of cut it in stone, some of these very rhythmical motifs. So there's an accent on first the right hand and then the left hand, right? But this accent kind of disappears, and then it becomes just like, it's a little bit harder to understand than if it was like, then you really start and stop this little fragment. So again, I would just put probably more. I think the idea there is not how many repercussions or what is in there, but sort of indirectly it is, but the start and the finish is the important, right? It's almost like you just hold a note down on the piano or like a synthesizer, So the beginning and the end, sort of the length is to me looks like what is really interesting there. So maybe, get that again more clear cut. And then of course it's didim, but I think that works really well. Let me see. And this accelerando works very well. It's super fast, so that works super nice. I have kind of small notes for this, but do you have any sort of questions or something like that maybe you want to ask, so I don't just like talk about bar after bar?
Sure. The big question with sort of studying, obviously I know you haven't really studied the score as much as I have, but just sort of each tempo is related. in some way, each is like doubled or a percentage of another. And I tried to sort of, like, throughout learning it and performing it, I tried to think about ways to kind of show that connection between them. And I was wondering if you've ever encountered, because each theme's really different sonically.
Yes.
So trying to show the tempo connection, I kind of had I had a little trouble kind of figuring out how to do that. I didn't know if you've run into that in other pieces or if you've.
No, sure. I mean, definitely. I mean, I played a couple of pieces by Philippe Manoury, and they often have these distinct tempo changes, and the way, I guess. And I played also once a piece for percussion and harp, for multi-percussion and harp, which is a very unfortunate combination because the harp can hardly play as loud as the multi-percussion setup. But there the tempo changed in every single bar of the whole piece. Every single bar there was a tempo change and probably a meter change as well, plus like weird polyrhythms. So I don't know, I think the way that I would approach it is probably really internalizing how each fragment sounds. And then maybe not so much worrying about like, is this like 1/3 of the tempo? I mean, it's to me would be too academic while performing to like feel, I don't know. I mean, unless there's a clear connection where, you know, like a dotted quarter note becomes quarter note or something. If there's like such a metric modulation, then I would of course do that. But otherwise, I would really just, I think, practice, of course, a lot with the metronome on this piece and just know each fragment, just the sound of it, like saying a word, you know, or saying one sentence, and then you just say that sentence, and then you say another word, and then you say that word, and you just learn to say the word after each other, you know, like learning a sort of speech almost, right? I think that would be effective if you think of it really like speech, you know. So like syllables and letters and you know, nouns and whatever, you know, so that it becomes text basically. But I see that some of, well, actually all of the tempos seem often kind of like metric modulations, right? Like dotted 8 note becomes quarter note. So of course there you have to just, I mean, again, if you learn each fragment like a sound, then it comes automatically, I think, you know. You don't really have to worry about it too much. It just comes out of you, you know, in the right way. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that seems like quite a challenge in this piece, honestly.
Yeah, it was something that was just, it's one of the bigger compositional techniques that I use. So I just wanted to ask about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially looks difficult, like from 96, for instance, you know, like going into the slower tempo 2, often, you know, from a completely kind of unrelated tempo, and then just finding the right tempo for that seems to be something that could pose a challenge for sure.
Sure. I guess another question I had, this piece also has a lot of extreme dynamics, but extreme loud dynamics.
Yeah.
Like, and just finding like, how would you go about would you kind of find your peak and then define everything below that, or would you just try to keep pushing yourself to play louder? Obviously it's a vibraphone, so the chance of breaking a bar or breaking something is less than on sort of a marimba, but
yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on your mallets. Some mallets, they can sound good in many like really loud dynamics, and other mallets, they really have like a maximum to where they sound still pleasant. And I think personally I would not, unless it was like a really brutal motive or moment in the music, you know, where it just needed brutality, I wouldn't exceed that threshold. That would be my maximum. So, but I don't think I would go too, let's say, academically about it, you know. I mean, yeah, if it's 4 Fs, it needs to be more than pianissimo, but I mean, you won't, as a listener, really hear, you know, if it's 3 Fs or 4 Fs. I think most people, even 2 Fs or 3 Fs, you know, it's hard to make those kind of differences super audible. So, you know, I would just make it sound good, and if the dynamics makes it sound bad, then if there's a really good musical reason for it to sound bad, then I would let it sound bad. But usually there's not, you know.
Yeah.
So I think for the opera gong it could be louder, definitely. You know,
Louder.
it has 6 Fs, so I don't know. Maybe change.
Yeah,
Yes, 6 F. It's an opera gong. It also has sort of a limit, right? I think the vibraphone can almost play louder if you hit like 4 notes, like. So maybe find a different opera gong that's louder.
I think also I need to consider maybe turning my setup the opposite way, so the high end is back to the stage and the opera gong is facing out. I was considering that. But...
Yes. Yeah, that could be an idea. Or you could, I mean, the most important is the attack, right? In theory, you could have 2 opera gongs and just, you know, or even 4 of them, slam, you know, just to get like the 6F unpleasantry.
I didn't consider 4 opera.
Really?
You know?
But, you know, maybe you could have 2, you know, and,
Yeah.
and then you would get twice the volume, basically, right? So then you might not even need to, like, you know, punish the instrument too much.
Sure.
But I mean, of course, it should be the same pitch, right? It should be the same. I mean, otherwise it would almost sound like a kind of a chord or something. Maybe it's not what the composer intended. Okay, Tim is putting the pressure.
I'm putting the pressure on. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
All right, well done, Remy. Thanks very much.
Yeah, great performance.
Let's put you backstage. And then I think we've got Hunter next, I believe. Yeah, he's going to do some Askell Masson. So, Hunter,
yes.
Where are you? Here he is. Hunter's got just to warn you, he's got a bit of a radio voice.
Yes, that's great. Too sweet, Tim.
Cool. Nice one.
It's a pleasure meeting you, Anders. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No. I'm going to queue up your video. Go for it if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Just a little about me. I'm located in Oklahoma City in the States. I'm currently a freelance percussionist and doing some university teaching. Getting ready for the upcoming audition season for DMA, finishing school. So obviously I'm not presenting you a keyboard piece, but I've been a big fan of how you've performed for years now, and I thought it'd be interesting just to kind of get a couple opinions from you on this piece that I dearly love and I'm thinking about bringing back for audition season. So I just love any comments or anything you have. So.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks a lot, and nice to meet you. I mean, as you know, I mean, I'm not really definitely not like setup specialist, but pieces, and I can guess about it. But I mean, this is it's funny, you know. I mean, I feel like it's obviously it's not a Danish piece, right? But but obviously Mausson quite often collaborated with Gert Mortensen, which I guess most of his pieces are written for, who used to be, as you may know, the professor at the academy where I teach. And Gert was my teacher for many years. So somehow this, I mean, I actually never played. Well, that's not true. I played one ensemble piece of Mausson's before, but otherwise I didn't play any of his like snare drum pieces or anything like that. But I still feel it kind of like a kind of because I heard also Gert play Mausson many times, and so I mean it feels a little bit homey in a way still.
No, I feel the exact same way, so that's great to hear.
Great.
All right, Hunter, how much do you want of this, buddy?
We can maybe just do about half of it, kind of similar. I know it does a repeat of the beginning, so maybe once that comes around, we can stop it there.
Okay, well, if you just raise your hand when you want me to stop it, and I'll duly stop it.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, good. I really like the whole video. I mean, you sort of get the essence of the piece really well, and I mean, it's not the most difficult multi-percussion piece in the world, but to get it like really quite clean and nice is also definitely not easy. I think you hit the spirit quite well with this. So, I mean, do you know Gert Mortensen?
I've heard the name and I think a couple of recordings, but I haven't done extensive research on him before now.
No. Yeah, I mean, maybe I would recommend, like, if you want it to be. Actually, not sure if Room was written for him expressly, or no, it's for
I
Evelyn
think looking at
Glennie,
the
yes.
score,
And
yes.
it's written for Evelyn Glennie, yes. But I always think, I don't know, whenever I see his works, I just think so much of Gert Mortensen, because a lot of those works are written for him also, and
Right.
I think they're quite close friends. I don't know. If I were you, maybe take a look also at some Gert Mortensen recordings. I think there are some videos online, like where he's playing I Ching, obviously by Norgard, which was written for him, and just sort of this style. I mean, there's some kind of it gets wild sometimes, and very. I don't know. There's a certain. I don't know. There's just a certain expression there also that it's, in many ways it's weird. Like one guy and he has like a lot of drums and he's playing this crazy music, right? I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of weird. But
Right.
somehow, like zooming out and then, yeah, I mean, definitely not like making a joke of it, but almost making a little bit of a theater out of it sometimes. Especially you have this stick,
Right.
obviously a favorite effect of Mausson's, but I mean, it's really kind of theatrical, So I'm not saying to like do something ridiculous, maybe especially in those places, but just like this kind of theatrical element could. Not like making a show, but I mean, maybe you should check out Gert Mortensen, and maybe not, exactly copy that for sure, unless you want to, but just to get like this kind of out of the body kind of experience of theatrics. So it's almost like a trance state, looks like, So
Right.
maybe
Well,
that
and
could
that's
give you
something
some.
I've been exploring as well during that section. That was one of the toughest parts
Yeah.
for me, is how do I not just rub sticks together, and that's what comes across to the audience. How do I become, how do I tell the audience what I'm doing and expressing what he's actually written. And that was actually one of my questions, just how can I better my performance presence, especially in that section, but overall as well, which I mean, that's a loaded question, but
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the sort of difficulties here is, of course, I mean, you're wearing like the face mask, so we can't really see your face. So then it's
Yes.
also extra difficult to convey this kind of thing when you cannot, we can't really see what you're feeling, so much of that
Right.
information. I mean, of course, the eyes, but I mean, I have maybe wilder eyebrows than you, so very big eyes. So I could.
Well, even then, I'm also wearing glasses as well, so
Exactly.
it's kind of, I totally understand that. So
Yes.
it's tough.
Yeah, but I
at
mean,
the time of recording, it was
yes,
but-
exactly. I know exactly. So I think I mean, I like your stage presence, honestly, and honestly, I don't like it when people try to oversell things, and I hope that I'm
Right.
not doing it too much at any rate. Also, because I think yet keeping some sort of personal integrity in the performance is really. Really nice, but just this kind of trance state, it's like you feel the music so much that I don't know, you become a different person in a way, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, how to achieve it is probably very personal. So I'm not quite sure what to tell you there. I mean, maybe check a little bit Gert Mortensen's performances. Maybe, I mean, they're very extreme, I would say, but
One
Okay,
extreme
so
from the other.
for fruit, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I think the opening it sounds really nice. Yeah. I mean, so this the secco thing, I don't remember. Do you dampen it or
Say that one more time. You cut out just for a
it's
second.
the secco stroke, the last stroke
Yes, yeah,
of
I
the bar?
remember when playing. If remember when I'm recording the piece, I would aim for the dead center of the drum versus a little off center to avoid a tonal sound. But also, I think putting just a little more force into it kind of deadens the sound as well, kind of overplaying the drum. But I'd love
But
to
you
hear.
don't think it's really it's simply to dampen the skin,
Right.
isn't it? Like a true,
Yes,
like if you imagine the secco in a symphonic, you know, you just dampen immediately the skin, and I think you would have time for that, right? It's
yes, no,
really kind
that's a
of
great idea,
slow.
actually.
So I think that the intention is to really secco the stroke with the hand or the arm somehow, you know, doom 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 doom, you know.
Right,
Uh,
and that, I mean that adds to the theatrical part of it
yeah,
as
that
well.
definitely
In some
adds
way.
to that, and then it adds. You know, again, like talking about like marimba playing, we don't have any control of the length of the sound usually.
Mhm.
But that also goes for the drums a bit. So then it's very expressive if you actually do control the length of the sound. Sometimes, obviously, by dampening it is the only way we can do it, right? But
Right.
then you will have this resonant drum, and then you know suddenly a stroke that is second. I think it could be quite effective, and I think that's what he meant there. All right, cool. But
That seems
otherwise,
to be right. So I definitely will add that.
yeah,
I really enjoy that
maybe
stuff.
have a look if it fits. You know, it depends probably also the drum you're using if you can get it to sound good like that.
Mhm.
All right, and
Right.
then yeah, so the little theme, you know, on the bar number 5, right? The 5/4 bar comes again
Mhm.
later, right? I
Yes.
think maybe you know to get it more expressive, those accents in the end there could be quite something. I think you know that you are really conveying something with that. You know, now they kind of, I mean, if you think of them as intentions rather than just accents, right? So that the
Right.
playing
Yeah.
becomes a little bit more intentional there. It's like the accent, it shows an extra degree of willpower, if you will.
Mhm.
It's not just louder, but it's, you know, you want it more on those in that
Right.
line, right? So there's more willpower in that. So rather than just thinking it should be slightly louder or something, nothing is saying how much louder. I think you can make something out of those the 2 times it comes. It's really heralding that now something is about to happen, right? And then super soft suddenly, right? Or at
Right.
least mezzo piano. And so this section here, it is just terrace dynamics, isn't it? I mean, you're doing quite a bit of crescendo and diminuendo, but to me it looks like
Yes.
it's just terrace dynamics, right?
Yes. I think throughout the second time, I believe it's supposed to add the dynamics. And really, it's supposed to be the accents. But as I listen to the recording, I'm obviously doing a little more than that. But
Yeah.
so are you talking about more of as soon as it hits mezzo forte, changing
Yeah,
immediately
yeah. I
versus
mean,
crescendoing there?
yeah. I mean, so dang, dung, dung, da, 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 dang, dung, dung,
Mhm.
da, dang, dung, dung, 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 da, dang. You
Gotcha.
know, instead of
Right.
da, dang, dung, dung, da, dang, dung, dung, da, dang, dung, dung, da, dang, dung, because then actually it's like the whole thing is just the same, you know. But the
Right.
other way, you have different sentences in a way, right? You're saying kind of different things. Otherwise, you're just saying one long thing. So, which is also cool. I mean, I like it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The sound of that, absolutely. It's just not what's written. So, usually he writes like crescendo, poco, blah blah blah, right? So I can only assume that he did not want that here. So I think you should make the terrace here.
Well, and that's a good point. Looking at like measure 11, he does write that crescendo poco a poco. So looking
Exactly,
at that
right
now,
after,
that makes total
like
sense.
in a lot of the piece, he has that, yeah. So, and then when you're only doing the action, it'll be easier, actually, if you think of it terrace. So it's just the, well, now I will say the E. Just not really used to reading drums. I know it's the bongo, yeah, the high one, you know. So just that alone sticking out, and the rest is like the same mesh entirely, right? The second time on the repeat, and then just
Right.
whoop whoop whoop, and then just tuning the accents up in a terrace dynamic. It seems to be the intention. All right. And so, yeah, I mean, the next section was worked really nice, I think. I think you need to play the piece to be, it is quite dense with information and accents, you know. I'm sure you're very text faithful here, you know. But there's no change, right? There's no dynamics or anything. It's just the same in different meters. So you can't really say so much about that kind of thing. I mean, let's see here. Let's see the next place. So yeah, one thing maybe on 48, right? You get this snare drum sudden. No, not snare drum. What is the instrument actually?
I think it's bass. The bottom line should be bass drum.
Oh, it's tom-toms coming in, I guess, with snare sticks.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again here, I would maybe take out those accents more, right?
Gotcha.
Dun, 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 dun. Like a you know, like a statement or a theme or like a fanfare of sorts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it's more not melodic, but you know, a little bit more easy for the ear to latch onto this little fragment. And then I would say before 58, don't make you make like a break there, right? This
Yes,
gives a bit of a
I think
shame.
yes.
I think if anything, you know, you could make like, not saying you should do it, but if anything could be an accelerando into this very tense moment, right? But if you make a stop, then you kind of take the energy out of it. This I wouldn't do, you know. You have like the bass drum is going up in dynamics, right? And then ready for this big thing, and then you wait too long with it, and you know, it's
Kind
like
of ruins the momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say the bongo roll is fucking amazing.
Thank you so much.
That sounds great. I mean, I don't think I heard it that well before. That's just like insane, just crystal clear, and then the double strokes in the end there. I mean, it sounds great.
Wow.
Really, really nice. I mean, absolutely, I would not be able to do that in my life. So this sounds really great, really great. I mean, and then with rim shot, this works super well. This passage, you play it really nonchalantly, just like nothing, and then rim shot. I mean, this works beautifully, you know.
Awesome. I'm glad that's coming
and
across, because that's one of the parts where I get very nervous of what my motions and what I'm doing. So I'm glad that's coming across well.
No, but that seemed very, very convincing, super convincing, and it sets you up, right? I mean, then I feel like you know, those kind of moments in the music, like also let's say you see a pianist playing some difficult piece and he has a run that is just perfectly executed and like brilliant. For like a half a minute after, you kind of sit in awe of what happened, and then it sort of changes the rest, and it sets you up, I guess, for this kind of theatrical part of it, right? It's just really nicely done, and then you just enjoy the next part more. Imagine, and now I'm not gonna be jinxing anything, I hope, but imagine that like this roll goes really bad and it's like super uneven and stuff. And then afterwards, you're doing all this theatrics, and everybody's thinking like, "What a fucking joke!" Like, you know, can you do the role? How should we take this seriously? But if you really nail that, right, and then afterwards, everybody's like, "Whoa, what is the master gonna do next?" You know. So, so this worked really well. Okay,
just being intentional about that.
Yeah. Let me see if I boom boom. Yeah, and then I was just saying like really shortly because Tim is putting pressure again. I would just say the ending was left me a little unsatisfied because I think this could be more. Like it also says as fast as possible, right? And I know there's some grace notes and stuff, but could you in theory learn it, kind of like try it without the grace notes? I mean, not saying you should not play them, but if you learn the lick, how it should sound without the grace notes, kind of, so you have the expression, and then I know it's easier said than done. I don't know how I would do it, but then you add them afterwards, right? Just so that it's really
Yes.
it's just those 30 seconds, just like thundering to the last note, right? As I see it, there shouldn't be any
Right.
breaks in it, right? It's just like super, super loud 30-second notes to the end, right?
Yes.
And then even faster than 30-second
Yeah.
notes, because you have the flams also. So it just should be like a flurry of notes, right? So this, I think you could improve on, because that's also, after you watch it, you sit with the last impression, of course. And if you could make that as strong as the rest of the piece, then I think the whole impression is even stronger. And then I would say also, I mean, yeah, don't make also too much of a break in 145, right?
Right. Yeah. Just don't lose the momentum going on.
It's just an 8-note, right? So
Yes.
I feel like you take it kind of, maybe because it's a difficult thing coming, kind of take it too far down in tempo there. And then again, you kind of lose the energy a bit. So just, I mean, I think those from 146 to the end, it could be this kind of almost the impossible passage, it's kind of impossible, like it should look almost like you did the impossible, and the ending's gonna be like, whoa, and I wouldn't be able to do that,
Right.
definitely, these drums, but I'm sure you can. So yeah, but I enjoyed the
Awesome.
performance a lot, definitely. Great
All
one.
right.
Well, thank you so much.
Well done, Hunter. Very impressive.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Just gonna look. I actually missed a comment earlier. I think this is Yu Chen left a comment. I think this is with regards to
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Remy's question about different tempos. I think what Yu Chen's trying to say there is basically, prepare a pre-recorded click track and just like mentally go over with the click track, see if you can how close you can get to that click track internally. I think that's kind of what he's getting at there. So
yeah, I mean, probably that would be that could be another way. I mean, I think when you practice a piece, you need many different ways to practice it and approach it from. The more the merrier, right? So this sounds like a good way. I mean, I often do it if I have, like, let's say it's a difficult duo piece, then I will take like the most polyrhythmically difficult bars, and I will take the other player's line, I will put it into finale or Sibelius. I use finale personally, and then I hear exactly how it should sound. Of course, you could learn it in theory, but then I can play to it, and I load it in like a slow motion app. Then I can slow it down to 50%, get exactly together with it, and then when I play with the other person, it's super easy suddenly.
Yeah, it's great. You can do that now. You used to be when you used to manipulate the speed, you used to manipulate the pitch as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So you get like chipmunks. But now
it's actually very smart, because when you do like the harpsichord repertoire, like all the period instruments, they are tuned. Is it A338 or something? It's tuned basically half a step lower. But with those apps, you can also want to play along with like a harpsichord player. So you'll be out of tune normally, but then you can tune it down 1 cent, and then you become more or less pitch perfect with the recording. So,
Great. All right, we're on to our final performance. David is gonna come in from Venezuela.
Great.
Hey, David.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm
Nice to
good.
meet you.
I'm just going to cue your video up now. I'm hoping your video doesn't blow my laptop up because it's quite big. So I'm just going to do a few things here. So if you want to just talk a little bit about maybe yourself and what you're going to play, that would be really cool.
Okay. Well, I'm David Fernandez. I'm from Venezuela. I'm actually living in Caracas. And the piece that I recorded are Rust from the percussionist Calvin Shu. It's a quite recent piece, written 2 years ago, I think. Well, it's a special piece for me, so I hope to enjoy it.
Great. Very nice to meet you, Abel, and thanks for your performance also. So let's all listen to it. It seems like it's queued up.
It's queued up. David, how much do you want me to play of this?
I don't know if it's possible to listening to the until the final section, because I know we don't have so much time.
Yep.
I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
if I do maybe like the last from the middle to the end, is that okay?
Will be great. Yes, from the I don't know, minute and a half or 2 minutes from the end.
Okay. All right. I'll do my best.
Don't worry.
Here we go.
I forgot to mute myself, I think. I'm sorry about that. But
I
I,
have
I,
to
I was
say,
very quiet.
I'm sorry. I have to say, I don't know if didn't explain myself correctly, but I was meaning until the second minute of the recording until the end. So I'm sorry if I didn't explain myself well.
Okay. Do you want me to go back a little bit?
I don't know if we have time.
Yeah, we've got a little time.
Okay, great.
About there?
That's the at the beginning of this.
You want the very beginning?
No. I am asking that it's the beginning of the piece.
No, that's about a third of the way in.
Mm,
But I mean, in any
I
case, I
don't
mean,
know.
I listened, of course, to the whole thing. So
Yeah,
I mean,
Anders already heard it. Like he's already listened. So
do you
let's
have
go
it
with it.
online? Do you have it online, like on YouTube or something? Did you put your
Yes, yes.
recording online? So maybe you, I don't know, you can share the link if people want to check out the full thing. In any case, it could be nice for them, or they can search for your name and find it. You know.
Yeah, great idea.
So I have some things to talk about here, definitely. Yeah, I mean, first of
Okay.
all, I think you achieve a very soulful performance of this piece. Again, I actually didn't know this piece, so, but yeah, I mean, just some observations maybe and some ideas. I mean, obviously, the first observation is like, as a marimbist, I mean, it there's a lot of cracked bars, like really cracked bars,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's. Uh, I hope it's not your own instrument, right?
No, no.
But
But
in any case, I
they
mean,
are actually the best condition marimba that we have in Caracas.
right. So I heard actually some people say that you can gaffen tape underneath the bar all along the. I mean, that's a quick fix. Then it won't rattle. It'll take some of the resonance, but then likely it will stop rattling. So maybe that's something you guys could check out. Or of course, gluing together the broken bars is even better. Um, you know, so because it's a shame you're using all these bass notes for all these motives, and then it's like crack, 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 you know. It's supposed to be a
Yeah.
heartbeat, but it definitely breaks my heart, you know. And it also says at one point in the music, it says like excruciating or something, and it's like I'm like that's definitely true, you know. That's excruciating to hear that kind of condition, you know. I mean, we have plenty of broken bars, unfortunately, in my school, but that happens apparently. But so what can you do about that, right? I mean, actually, unless the bars are totally decimated, usually, I mean, and maybe this sounds pretty decimated, but honestly, usually, I, you know, I can play with some mallets that actually, or play in spots that are not so damaged, so then that you actually cannot hear it unless you play like very loud. Then of course you cannot. So I would urge you to explore different playing spots, maybe on those bars or in general on the instrument, because from looking at the video, your bass mallet is awfully close to the center of the bar a lot of the times, and maybe it's not the best location for the bass mallet to be in, you know. I don't know, what are your thoughts
Okay.
about that?
We usually try to look for different locations in the bar to play and didn't list that crack, but there are some time in that there are no way. I don't know if I explain myself. If we play at the edge or maybe below of the center, it will always hear the crack. So
Yeah, yeah.
we look for that other places, but sometimes it didn't work.
No, yeah, right. I mean, I'm just saying it because there's a lot of cracked bars on it. It's not just what, it's not just the low C. It's like all the low notes sound pretty cracked. And this usually indicates either that people practice with like vibraphone mallets in the bass end, or they play in the simply in the wrong spots. And for a lot of people do that because people think that the middle of the bar is a good place to play. The thing is that there's, in any case, too many overtones in the middle, usually. I mean, depends what you want, of course. But especially for tonal music like this, you simply get less clear pitch in the, you know, you gotta go off center, just not to avoid a cracked sound, but simply to get a good pitched sound, you know. So that's my point is, to get a good fundamental sound, you need to not play in the center for sure. So there's something with these bars that's unfortunately affecting, of course, the performance a little bit. So just a couple of ideas maybe. So as I understand it, this octave C is supposed to be like a heartbeat, right?
Yes.
Yes. So did you ever try like slightly kind of dampening the second one? I know it says tenuto, and in theory it means held, but it's like a 60 note. So anyways, because if you think about a heartbeat, it doesn't have a lot of resonance, right? It doesn't say dum 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 dum, So if it could be dum 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 dum, maybe it would sound more like a heartbeat. I'm not sure. I mean, again, I didn't play the piece, but maybe you could try it out, just really to emulate that heartbeat kind of feeling. A heartbeat is very, apropos secco sound, right? To me, right? It's very kind of short sound. So maybe try it. Maybe not in the very beginning, it's fortissimo accents, right? But then when it gets like this, especially, when it comes like bar 14, gung, 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 and then you have these like rolls and the melody, maybe it could create an extra layer of three-dimensionality in the soundscape that some of the sounds are short. So this you could experiment with. Then for the beginning roll there, just a tip, and I don't know how applicable it is here, but it very quickly, right, it becomes sounding like this. Like that kind of sound, right? And very often it can be quite nice if you change the sticking, so it instead would be because the like somehow, or like let's say I take a chord, it's a C minor chord. Now I play it. This doesn't sound that together as, if you kind of change the sticking, if possible, so that it's not always, sometimes it can be useful. I think here you could do it. So basically take, leave mallet number 2 on the C, take mallet, leave mallet 3 on the C, take mallet 2 on the D, and mallet 4 on the E flat. And then you could, in theory, take the B flat with mallet number 1. Then you would get a kind of a thicker kind of roll, when it's so close together, that can be a very nice way to do it, so that you always have like top to like that instead of shifting like that in the sound. That's just something that works quite well sometimes.
Okay.
So maybe you can explore it. And then like bar 6, I mean, maybe it's just me getting old and tired, but to me, like the second chord at bar 6, it looks like a G augmented chord, but it just sounds awfully lot like you're playing C minor, you're playing, aren't you playing C minor? It should be, I mean, it sounds like, it should be, right? It should be the B leading to the, yeah? Is it just me, or I think you're playing C minor there, which should be a little bit too soon to arrive in the home key. Yeah. So, and it comes multiple times, and you play C minor all the times. So yeah, I think, sometimes the marimba overtones can play tricks on the ears. So yeah, but anyways, I think all these rolls actually sound quite nice also with the mallets. I wonder if maybe the bass mallets are slightly hard, since you can really hear the cracks. And I think if you have like proper, is it Keiko Abe mallets or something you're playing with, or what is it?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is it what mallets are you playing with? Is it like Yamaha Keiko Abe mallets, or?
No, there are infinity percussion mallets. from
Oh,
Polish.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the sound is good. The thing is that just the low end, it gets a very hard sound in the low end. And honestly, if the bars were not already cracked with this mallet in this dynamic, it will crack for sure. So I would find something that has more of a like a I don't know. I mean, how well this comes across on the, but I'll show you two differences, right? One with the keiguabe, which sounds sort of similar, and then one with another kind of mallet. All right, so here we have the keiguabe mallet, and I don't know if I mean, this is not really very used, actually never used probably. So it's not really that hard, but as it wears out, it becomes kind of harder, like a core sound. And then you can hear this kind of mallet. Somehow you can't really play, you can't get like a hard sound with it because the core is just not hard. But it sounds to me like your bass mallets actually have a hard core, and that is bad news for the bars, yeah? So I would find a bass mallet with a softer core or just enough yarn around it so that you never get the core sound. I really personally like that in the bass. It breathes cracked bars. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, and I would say sometimes when you are playing the roles, especially of loud dynamics, it becomes a little much arm involved, I would say. And I think that is sort of hindering you a little bit. So I would try to, if you can, go for a more wrist-based technique for that. It is possible, So try to eliminate that arm movement because I think it's holding you back a little bit. And then, yeah, so maybe some ideas for this we go to bar 14, right? You get the first little roll there, one-handed roll. So this one, you're really kind of sneaking it in, right? In the performance. And this works really well. When sneaking in, it can usually be very nice to start with like a really, I'm sure but like a really high angle of attack. And then as it comes, then it will sound kind of further away. And then with your gesture, you just lower the angle of attack to a more normal one. And then the sound becomes more and more present. This is a really nice, obviously, little trick. I'm sure you use it a lot, but I mean, I think especially here it could be applied, right? And then you also see in bar number 18, you have this fourth on a decrescendo. So there, I mean, the classic kind of little trick would be to start the roll kind of towards the middle, and as you're fading out, you just do like this, and the mallets automatically come from the middle, which is here on my imaginary bar, and then as you lift it, it comes to the note, so you actually don't, and the sound, that effect is kind of magical, it's just totally fading out. Okay. This can be magical, and a piece like this, it's about finding the magic, where it's just so nice and so smooth and so beautiful that it becomes even, if you can persuade even a die-hard kind of contemporary guy to be like, that was actually pretty nice, This should be your goal, I think so. But this whole section works nice, and I mean your octave technique is is really hitting all the notes and very very powerful, and this seems to work really well, right? So that's, I mean, good job for sure, because that's not easy also when it's spread out so much you basically get all the notes, and it's super fast and clean and with a pretty good sound, So just remember, I mean, to relax the grip, especially, you know. With the traditional grip you're playing, right? Then
Yeah.
I don't know, it just cannot really be as relaxed as, for instance, an octave in the Burton grip. You just take the octave and you can just lose all your fingers and it's still there. With traditional grip, if you just let, yeah, I mean maybe, but then you don't have control, right? But with, for instance, Burton grip is really relaxed. Stevens can be a little bit the same. I'm not saying that it's not relaxed. It looks good. Just I think, at least for myself, I can feel that when I use that grip and play big intervals, I have to keep reminding myself to almost produce an artificial kind of rebound or something, because otherwise it gets like that into the bar. And I see a lot of players struggling with that. They get this kind of pang sound rather than, you know, this really nice weight into the bar. It just is restricted and there's too much pressure on the bar sometimes. So again, with the cracked bars and the stuff, it just, this, you know, it just sort of, I don't know if the other guys are also playing traditional in this place, but I mean, this could be another reason why the bars are cracked, actually. I mean, of course, you don't have to crack any bars with any grip, but just it seems to me like sometimes it can kind of a stiff grip, and I mean I love it. I use it all the time. So yeah. All right, cool. Let me see here. Yes. So yeah, so just finding those kind of special moments in the piece, right? And I think you have quite a few of them, but like really identifying and crafting something magical out of not necessarily even the whole piece, but some key moments where it's just, you know, it's I would like even more of that, you know. It's like let's say you go to a piano recital, you know, and you hear I don't know, you hear whatever, you know, some Rachmaninoff sonata or preludes or whatever, and then afterwards you're not going to remember every bar of the music. I mean, but you will remember some especially intense moments, you know, and and you have to view it from that. Like you have to create these intense moments for the audiences so that they really have something to remember, right? And you know, maybe sometimes if there's like a really virtuosic run, then practicing so hard that it's extra virtuosic, so it's almost superhuman, you know. Even if it doesn't have to be super fast, but then it just comes so fast and suddenly like you know, like surprising that the audience is like, whoa, you know, like those moments, right? Or that you delay a chord so long that it's like almost it should come, and then it comes, you know, and it's like, whoa, you suspend time for the audience, you know. So maybe you can play around with those kind of things a little bit more. So do you have oh, David is gone.
Oh, it's dropped out. Okay, well, this
had any questions?
yeah. Oh, he's back. I think he's back. Hold on. There we go. Hey,
Oh, he is.
we've got like literally a minute. If you've got any quick questions, David, do you have any questions?
Well, for this final section, I don't think so. He said so much to work in. So in this final section, I think I don't have so many questions. But
Okay.
I was wondering about what how do you practice on different characters or different colors on the marimba. I mean, if I want a sharp and clothing sound, for example, how I work to get that sound and not to get it like I don't know how I get it, but it sounds like that. I want to know how to work for the sound that I want to produce.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be like a couple of answers to that question. I think one answer that might not be answered so often would be just that it's actually context also. So if you, let's say, just recorded some sounds, I mean, they wouldn't mean anything, each of them. It wouldn't be like and especially maybe it would sound a little bit colder, but sometimes the context, the way that you arrive there, it can help to, you know, to give it that kind of shade or color. And of course, on the marimba, there's the mallets play a big part, but then, of course, all the different variations on, you know, how much of this are you doing, or how much of this is instead doing, what is the angle of attack when it hits the bar, where does it hit the bar, how fast is it going, how much pressure is behind it, so it cannot exit the bar. You know, that's kind of the main, I guess, things that we can work with, right? And there's obviously infinite combinations on those. So I think that's the really good thing about the marimba playing. If you can really accept that it's an instrument with super many limitations, but on the other hand, it actually has a myriad of possibilities also. So if you just really embrace those and stop trying to, you know, it's easier said than done, but stop trying to make it into something else than it is, then you have more success for sure. So yeah, just getting really trying to exploit all the tools that it after all does have, you know. Especially killing more notes, I would say. Killing more notes is something that I learned from Theodore Milkov. I don't know if you have any sessions with him. That would be great for you if you did. But he has, I mean, he, at least for me, was the one to introduce the concept of quite often leaving the stick on the bar. I mean, usually works only in certain dynamics, but then you can really change the overtone composition of the stroke, you know, because you're dampening some overtones essentially and leaving others to ring. Basically, the higher pitched overtones, the small vibrations will stop first, and sort of the longer waves, they take more pressure to kill. So then you can sometimes dampen the high overtones kind of and leave the more the deeper ones to ring. Then you get a sort of a warmer, deeper sound. And if you lift really quickly, for instance, it will have a tendency to produce higher overtones. And I mean, so that's why it's sometimes stupid if you want to make a staccato stroke, which for all other instruments actually is, it means pretty much that you almost only have the attack, which is like all the junk, right? But it's like an explosion of sound, very high pitch, kind of all the trash overtones first, but none of the real deal. But on the marimba, if you do this, then you kill all the high overtones, and it actually sounds much more, it sounds lower, and you want it to be bright and sparkly, right? So actually the best way, of course, is to lift, which also a lot of players are doing, but some players will look like a staccato and think, oh, but on all other instruments, it would be like a burst of high overtones. And on the marimba, if you kill it, it's like you get no high overtones, right? So I don't know, just an observation.
Yeah, great answer. All right, well done, David, thank you.
Yeah.
So Anders, we're at the 2 hour mark, but I didn't know if you got like literally 5 minutes just to have any quick questions.
Sure thing. Yeah.
So if I bring everyone on, we'll move that. Okay, Elin, you've been asking a lot of questions. Do you want to just take one of your questions? If you want to ask one of your questions. Why don't you take the last one? I think that's
the last one, right?
Yeah. So Elin says, how much of your own interpretation is expected or allowed?
Yeah, I mean, that answer, it can't really be answered, can it? Because, I mean, if you are a certain person with a certain amount of success, probably you can do whatever you want, right? Like imagine Glenn Gould playing Bach, right? I think a lot of people would say that you don't really hear Bach, you hear Glenn Gould, but I mean, obviously it's Glenn Gould, so you accept it and it's quite something. But if somebody else would try to do the same, then people would be like, oh, bad taste or something, you know? So I think that's everything's relative there. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the person, the artist, and also the perception of what audience you might have at that given time as well. So a little bit like with the stroke types, many different factors come into play with that.
It's the context, right?
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else got a question?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Elias, no, you go for it.
Okay. I like to ask everyone, just like, so everyone practices slowly. We all know that's the number one tip. But do you have any other tips for practicing? That's something that you have developed yourself, or something that you find extra effective or efficient?
I mean, I think what I found to be just the most efficient is literally, I mean, not just practicing slowly, but taking it up in tempo, right? But I mean, and the best way, at least for a dummy like me, is just to use the metronome, because otherwise I have no discipline and I stop doing it very quickly. So yeah, don't practice too long sections. I guess it's, again, I mean, it's sometimes the normal tips are the best ones, you know. If you're playing a lot of mistakes, obviously you're not achieving what you should have set out to do, right? Unless you set out to play a lot of mistakes, then you succeeded, but most likely you didn't, right? So if you're making a lot of mistakes in the practice room, then obviously something is not going the way you intended it to do. And for most people, especially with a weird instrument like the marimba, for instance, it's the tempo. I mean, because it's hard to hit those little pieces of wood, you know, and sometimes you're spaced so far apart quite often that you can't really see what's going on. You literally cannot look both places. So you have to slow down and in the beginning check, you know, where are the mallets? Because otherwise you'll just go by your instinct, and then you'll play the wrong notes, the same wrong notes all the time, because you never check them. I mean, that's one thing I tell my students, and I try to do sometimes. I'm a little sloppy at that. But like playing octaves, for instance, I think most people just look at the inside mallet when they're playing octaves and practicing octaves. So you never really know where the outside mallet is. It's probably kind of in the right spot, but is it 100% in the right spot, like in the center line of the bar? Not unless you look at it, right? So sometimes, and it's actually very revealing, if you look at the outside mallet, it's like, whoa, where the hell is the inside mallet suddenly? Because at least I'm so used to looking at the inside mallet, but it's very healthy to check the outside mallet once in a while. You know, I actually started practicing sometimes that I would look at one of the hands like even more than I should be looking, you know, just to check it 100%. And then you really also know where your train of thought is, because if you're always looking at the right hand and you basically have no idea what the hell the left hand is doing, it's also a big chance that you are not musically focused on the left hand, because it's in random places, right? So how can you get the sound that you really want? It's just random. It's just kind of flailing along and sometimes playing the right notes, sometimes wrong notes, but you have no idea. So you have to look at it sometimes, I think, just to recalibrate the whole spatial awareness.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know about you, but sometimes I actually visualize it before I play it, and then like,
yeah,
you know.
No, I mean, that's another good tip, right? Like visualization in general, obviously. I mean, just even like going through the whole piece without score even, or with a score, but just imagine putting everything in the right spot, you know, just slowly. Or even really fast also. That's a great thing to do also, of course.
Great. Hunter.
Yeah, I heard earlier in our conversations that you said that you're out a duo album soon. I'm just interested to know how long that process has been taking, and what crucial advice you would offer for anyone recording an album in the future. I'm looking to record a solo album soon, so just looking for any advice on that end.
Yeah, I really don't know how to advise that. I think you should just expect not to make any money off it, or never really make it back. The money you spend on the recording is probably the sad truth. I think back in the days, you could probably make a fair bit of money from selling albums. But I mean, and of course, you could just produce an album yourself and sell it in like concerts and stuff. But like streaming revenue, at least in Denmark, is like nothing. You know, you have to get millions of streams to get anything that makes anything worthwhile, right? And you with classical percussion, let's face it, you're not gonna get that. I mean, most likely, I'm not, you know, not. It might be possible, but for most, it will not happen. And so you should think of it maybe. I mean, our album is released now, but I mean, people just, you know, if people are interested in it, they go to Spotify and listen for free, you know? They don't
Right.
buy, like, they don't go online and buy it somewhere. They just listen for free. That's, you know. So the sad truth is that you're not going to make any money off it, because also all the percussion students, they're just going to listen for free. They're not going to buy your album. Let's be real. And the same thing happens to like sheet music. If they were just going to buy, let's say you wrote a piece and all the percussionists thought, well, that's a cool piece, I'm going to buy it and play it, but they're going to steal it and play it. So you're not going to make, you know, nearly as much money as you would be. You know, that's the sad thing. So
That happens more frequently than I think people realize as well. I actually found the other day some of the old WPG scores.
Oh yeah.
One of the artists, I don't know who it is, but someone's put it all online, so you can literally buy the whole WPG,
really?
yeah, for like $2 or something. It's pretty crazy.
Even charging for it.
Yeah.
That's never. No,
So-
but I mean, my point is maybe just, I don't know, probably not so many people watching, but just like remember to support the artists that are there, you know, of course, yourself, but you support your friends, support the people who are putting out albums, the people who are writing pieces, you know, buy them, because actually if the ecosystem wasn't full of, let's say, thieves, but I mean, it's not thieving now, it's like, well, Spotify, it's like, I would say the gray zone in a way. Obviously you can just legally go there and stream it, but if people, all of us would buy the music that we listen to, everybody would have much better shot at a very nice career where they could live doing their art. But the sad truth is that even musicians don't do that, you know. I mean, I see even in our school, and I tell all the students they should buy the pieces they're playing, you know. Oftentimes they're working on them for months. It's a small investment for something that actually takes such a big part of your life. But I see everybody come with copies, you know. They don't buy the things, but if they had bought them, you know, I mean, Gordon Stout would be a millionaire, you know. I mean, he might be, I don't know his, but I mean, for sure, I mean, I can't imagine how much money he would have made from that, right? But people just download it or share it illegally. So just, I mean, I quickly get into that mode. I mean, just to say that, but it's you know, buy albums, you know, support this, don't stream, because actually they make no money from that.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, I think we'll probably come to a natural conclusion. So thank you very much, Anders, for your words of wisdom. It's been great to catch up a little bit. Speaking of which, how's the Yellow After the Rain arrangement going?
Oh, yeah, but there was some guy beat me to it, right? Some guy made
really?
Yellow After the Nuclear Rain, or I don't know what it was called, something like that.
Anders, on our first tour, Anders said that he was going to rearrange Yellow After the Rain to be the hardest marimba solo in world history.
But since then, I actually arranged La Campanella, which I'm playing tomorrow, and that's.
Oh yeah, I saw that posted. Well, good luck with your concert.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, if you want me to share the link or anything, is it online or is it?
No, it's in Denmark. Yeah.
Oh, it's in Denmark. Okay.
I doubt many people will fly in for that. Yeah.
All right.
Great to see you guys, and it was a lot of fun, and great performances across the board, and hope you have a great virtual tour. Also, it's amazing what you're doing, Tim, and it's a super cool project. I mean, I really think it's totally unique, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope to see you guys on a cruise ship also maybe in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll reconnect on that front for sure.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just
Right.
gonna, for everyone at home, Anders, if you should just bear with me a minute, just signing off. We will see you again, same time, same place next week. Who's on next week? Oh, it's going to be Alex Smith is going to be on next week. So we will catch up with him then. All right. Thanks to everyone watching.